as a missionary and priest myself, this passage is one of my favorite passages. Favorite in the sense that I am challenged all the time whenever I think or reflect on my being as a priest and also as a missionary. In other words, whenever I reflect on this passage, I always challenged by the word of Jesus. And even somehow, I think I may be not able to be one of those disciples that required by Jesus in this passage. Just for simple things, being a priest in modern society, Jesus of course does not mention here, do not bring mobile phone. And I might be not pass in that requirement because I have mobile phones. And I have more than 2, even 3 tunics or shoes and alike. But then, dear brothers and sisters, what does it mean really for us to reflect on the gospel story today? The context of the story is that Jesus giving instructions to his disciples before they depart for a mission. It's not a matter of going 2 by 2. It's not a matter of going and meeting the people. But this is more than that. When Jesus instructed this or his disciples. So for the disciples, and whom we also acclaim ourselves as modern disciples, reading this story, this gospel, first of all, it's important to remind ourselves that empowerment by the Jesus himself in the whole context of mission. This passage tells us that even though as a missionary, as a priest, or in different contexts you are involving in mission, you have the most all human capacity. But we are reminded that, of course, very important, we have human capacity in our mission, but this passage reminds us that we still depend on God's power. We still dependent on God's authority. And that is the core message. Jesus tells his disciples, you go, you have been trained, you know how to mingle, to approach the people, but remember, you should not be out from me. You should not be, just bring yourselves without connected to me. And that is very important for us as disciples of Jesus. We should always remind ourselves that we carry on our mission, but should not away from the source of mission itself, that is God. So the mission, in essence, is empowered by God, by Jesus himself. The second point also, as we reflect on the story today, dear brothers and sisters, is that radical trust in Jesus. Radical trust in Jesus. When Jesus instructing the disciples that do not bring so many things when you go for mission. Do not bring more than one clothes. Do not bring a lot of food. Even do not drive a car just walking. It means that you should trust radically in the one who sent you. You should rely always on His power, not on our own, not on the material things that we carry along with us. Radical trust in Jesus becomes so powerful and fundamental for those call ourselves in the mission. And finally, Jesus also through this passage reminded His disciples that prepare to respond to a rejection. Prepare to respond to a rejection. Not just in the mission context, but also, it's also a call to each one of us. Be prepared ourselves how to respond when we are not welcomed. Prepare ourselves how to respond when we are rejected by other people. I am sure each one of us here that we have been rejected, we have been not welcomed by many others in our lives, in our families, in our communities. The question is not how many times you have been rejected or not welcomed by others, but how do you respond to such rejections? And that is the message for the disciples tonight. This morning, I was approached by a friend of mine from Indonesia to be a source for his program, Unbox, a podcast program tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Unfortunately, it's in Bahasa Indonesia, so I don't encourage you to join because it's in Bahasa. So today we trying running the test the audio and the questions that he's going to ask me. So he shared from his perspective as someone who runs the program but not supported by his provincial, by the SVD provincial in one of the provinces in Indonesia. He was so eager to tell the story. He has been working so hard, prepare the center, communication center, prepare everything related to the center, including the podcast. It has been well known now. But one thing that's always disturbed him, that he never received support from his provincial. Number one in his province. I could align that. I could feel his frustration. And then I just told him, bro, let's put this way. When we put this center or that center in the context of mission, you should not look at the outcome of your mission. You should not look at those situations, because what counted most in our mission is not so much about our outcomes or how many people supported or how many people been watched or views our contents, but it is about our loyalty. It is about our faithfulness. Are you still faithful to do your mission amidst that challenge from your provincial? Are we still faithful in our mission, even in small things, amidst that we might discouraged by so many people? And I think that's very important point for us. It is not about the outcome. It is not about the result of what we are doing, but it is about the faithfulness. Are we still faithful to the Lord, even though we are discouraged by so many other people? And that is the final question that Jesus posed to his disciples tonight. Are you still faithful to me, even though you will not welcome by those whom you meet in your ministry? So let us take these points, dear brothers and sisters, seriously and faithfully. That be ready to be rejected, It's called to respond to a rejection, trust in God radically, and of course, all we are doing as a people of faithful is that empowered by God Himself, not just by our own power.
Amen.